Hi everyone! I hope you're doing well. Today I'm offering another career pick a card reading for you, this time on Should I Leave This Job? This is the second part of a two-part series that I hope will help bring all the pros and cons of your current or most recent job to the front of your mind. Last week we looked at all the good things and what you could expect if you stayed where you are. And now this week we'll look at the challenges of your current job and what you might expect if you decided to leave in the near future. Please remember that this is a general reading, so take what applies and leave the rest. And also please refer to my disclaimer in the description box down below. But with that, let's go ahead and get started. So if you've never watched a pick a card video, I'm just going to give you a quick little overview. This will be pile number 1, this is pile number 2, and this one here is pile number 3. So you can pause the video as you need to meditate on the question, what can I expect if I leave this job? I personally like to cycle through the numbers in my head and just see which one seems to be louder, so to speak. If you prefer to choose with objects or crystals, I'll be placing some on each of these 3 piles, and you can choose that way. And once you've picked your pile, you can go ahead, scroll to the description box or the comment that I'll leave down below and fast forward to your reading. So I will start by leaving about 15 seconds of silence with these cards without any objects on them, and then I will go ahead and place the objects down. And here we have the objects. So with pile number 1, we have the eraser. On pile number 2 is the mini Swiss Army knife. And on pile number 3 is the key. So go ahead, and again, I'll leave 15 seconds, but pause the video as you need. And when you've chosen your piles, you can scroll down and fast forward to your reading. Okay, so if you chose pile number 1 with the eraser, then this reading on what you can expect if you decided to leave this job is for you. So let's get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the Chakra Wisdom Oracle card here. This, just like last week, this kind of represents the overall energy at your particular job. And we have the Acceptance card. And we're going to start with this card and then we'll circle back around to it as well. I am going to start by just kind of saying what comes to my mind, and I also want to read the short little paragraph in the booklet that these cards come with. But for acceptance, I kind of feel like this is a situation that you are kind of resigned with the fact that you are going to have to stick with it for a little longer, especially if you are watching this while we are in quarantine mode, while this COVID stuff is still going on. You realize that you're going to have to stick with the job a little longer. And if this is a job that you find that you greatly dislike, it's a little harder for you. Maybe you really are feeling drawn thin at the moment. But you have come to the acceptance that this is the way it has to be for a little bit longer. And with the pie, so she has like this pie here, and there's an empty slice, like she's taken a slice out. So maybe you're feeling like you're missing something with this job. So let's also look at these 3 cards at the bottom here. These are the different aspects of your job, and I asked this time for the more challenging aspects. In this case, it's the social life at work, how it affects your personal life negatively, if it does, and the most challenging part of the job. So let's have a look. This is the social, and we have the Four of Cups. And I'm pretty sure this card showed up for one of the groups last week too, for the same position, social aspect. And for the how it affects your social life, we have the Queen of Swords, and the most challenging part of the job is represented by the Four of Swords. So let's start with the social. Since it's interesting that it's coming up again, I took a quick peek, and it does actually, it had come up for, I think it was group number 3. So these people that you deal with at work, they are more withdrawn coworkers. Maybe they don't talk too much about their personal lives. You could find that kind of challenging, possibly, or maybe you don't really care either way. But these are the people that you deal with. They might be a little drab or dull, or there's some aspect that you find is difficult to deal with these people who are like the Four of Cups. They're always looking for the next thing, so they like their next big project, and somehow, even though this is a very slow energy card, I kind of got the sense, like, with the movement of their projects, they're always looking for more to do, and maybe they get a little bored quickly, and that can be challenging for you if you're in a position where you don't particularly care for the job, but you've accepted the fact that you need to stick with it for a little longer. Or these people are just contemplative people. They think before they act, and with it being a slow-moving card, that could also be challenging. If they're moving so slowly, they have to think about what you've asked them to do, or if you've asked them to be part of one of their projects, they have to think about whether or not they want to let you on, and it's possibly quite frustrating for you. With this Queen of Swords card and how it affects your personal life, I feel like, since we're talking about the negative aspects, we're going to look at the negative aspects of the Queen of Swords. And she can be quite cold. She can be a little harsh. Her tongue is quite sharp when she's difficult to deal with. So maybe this, if you don't like your job, these are the aspects that could start coming out when you're not at work. And since this is a swords card, it could be that they are internalized. So these could be harsh thoughts that you have, this negative mindset, possibly. She can be cold, she can be a little overly critical at times, and a little bit intolerant. So maybe you find that your temper is a lot shorter after just getting off of work. This can be a challenge for you. And with this Four of Swords, I'm getting the sense that the most challenging part is the ups and downs with how much work you have to do. So there are times where it's quiet and times where it's crazy. And that can be pretty challenging when there is no steady amount of work. The other thing that I get from this Four of Swords card is that maybe you feel like you need a break, but you might not feel like you are able to take the time off to have that mental release, which is what the Four of Swords is indicating. And then let's have a look at these two cards up here. These, again, are the cards that represent whether there's much left for you or what could be the overall outcome of you leaving. And we have the Six of Wands. And on this side, we have the Seven of Wands. So the 6 and the 7 both show up. That's interesting. So I feel like if you left this job right now, or in the very near future, once this quarantine starts to abate and we start getting back to our new normal, and you decided to find something else for work, I feel like the Six of Wands is about public recognition. So possibly you would find that your coworkers are like, oh my gosh, she's leaving or he's leaving. What are we going to do without them? And they'll start to realize that they actually really need you. Maybe you feel that, going back to this Four of Swords, maybe you feel like they don't rely on you enough, and so you're dealing with these quiet periods, and that's frustrating for you. So if you decide to leave, they could come to you and try and offer you promotions or pay raises to try and get you to stay. And that's up to you whether or not you want that pay raise or the promotion to stick with this job a little longer. And the Seven of Wands, you might find that you need to defend your desire to leave. So maybe your coworkers start giving you grief about trying to leave, or once you announce that you are leaving, once you found another job to jump into, they might be like, "Oh, why are you leaving us? How could you?" You know, that sort of thing. But you're going to come out on top. Regardless, I feel like, whether or not you feel that you can stick with it even longer, or if you decide to leave in the end. And I feel like this group is more likely to say, all right, I'm out, bye, and you'll probably come out on top. There are probably a lot of opportunities that are coming your way, I feel like. Okay, so let's circle back around to this acceptance card. I find that the book offers a lot more than, and sometimes completely different messages from what I usually pick up, and they might be relevant for you. So I'd like to read you the little meditation at a glance section of this book. And it reads, acceptance, innocence and an inability to see one's gifts are indicated, as well as the protection of spirit guides, good luck, and an increase in self-esteem and confidence. So there's some positive for you. I know that when I pulled these cards, I asked for the more challenging or the more negative side of these jobs that you face, and there are obviously some positives. And there are some interesting questions that you can ask yourself, so some personal inquiry when relating to this card. And you can think about whether you are assessing yourself accurately, or are you distorting your reality in a self-defeating way? Can you simply accept yourself? So that kind of sort of ties to that. Like, I think I mentioned the fact that there's like an empty part in her pie. She's taken a slice out, and maybe there's an empty feeling at work, like you could be doing something so much more or feeling a whole lot more fulfillment at your job. Okay, so this is all that I see for you, pile number 1, on what you can expect if you decide to leave this job in the near future. If you enjoyed this reading, please leave it a like. It would really help this little channel out. And let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And subscribe if you haven't already. I'll continue doing these career pick-a-card readings for you guys. And but for now, I'll love you and leave you, and hopefully I'll see you for the next reading. Bye, pile number 1. Alright, so if you chose pile number 2 with the miniature Swiss Army knife, then this reading on what you can expect if you decided to leave this job in the near future is for you. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start with the Chakra Wisdom Oracle card here. This, like last week, is the representation of the overall energy at your work right now, and we have the Discovery card. So we are going to start and end with this card, and we're going to start with what I get first thing, and then I will circle back around after we go through these other cards, just to mention a few things from the book and read some of the insight questions that you can think about when it comes to this job. So straight away, what I get from this discovery card is either this is one of your first few jobs, or it's a job that you are really discovering what it is that you want in this world, in this particular life. And that could still be the case if this is one of your first few jobs. And with the fact that, there's this person here and a spiritual being. So it feels like maybe you are being guided to find what it is that your heart truly wants, and you're just discovering this right now. That's kind of what I get first impression wise. Let's have a look at these 3 cards down here. These are, just like last week, the different aspects of your job. So this is the social aspect. These are the card that represents the people that you are working with, and we have the Ace of Wands. This card has to do with how this job affects your personal life, and we have the Knight of Swords. And this one here has to do with the most challenging part of the job, and we have the Six of Cups. So let's go ahead and start with this Ace of Wands card. This represents, like I said, the people that you are dealing with mostly at work. And these could be pretty energetic folks. They might be what you would say are extroverted people. They might even be bold and sometimes a little bit rash, I feel like, and maybe they are so lucky that they get away with their rashness. Everything just seems to work out, and regardless of how well it goes, it just kind of everything falls into place for them. And they have lots of ideas. There are a lot of ideas that they come up with, and they want to try them all, but maybe there's just too many ideas for them to deal with at the moment. Oh, by the way, if you hear any banging up in this video, my neighbor upstairs has come home after being gone for a month, of course, as I'm trying to film. But whatever, it's okay. So, let's look at this Knight of Swords. This is how this job maybe affects you outside of the workplace. And the Knight of Swords is also himself rather rash, like I was saying with these extroverted Ace of Wands people. They might be a little rash, and maybe this comes out in your personal life as well. But the Knight of Wands can also be a little bit impatient, and maybe this can carry over into your personal life. And even if you are quite fond of your job, this could just be on a bad day. On a bad day, maybe you get a little short-tempered or a little bit impatient with those around you. Maybe it affects your children, if you have children, or your pets, because they can be our children too, right? The Six of Cups usually has to do with kids or something from the past. And with this being the most challenging part of the job, maybe you are working with kids. So maybe you were something like a kindergarten teacher, or an elementary school teacher, or possibly you work with kids in a health related field. So maybe you are a general practitioner for children. But maybe even if you're not working with children, then things from the past keep coming back up. So maybe you have recurring projects like grant season. You might have projects that come every year or every maybe 5 years, and they can be quite challenging for you and test your temper and your patience, as reflected with this Knight of Swords. So with the Six of Cups as well, maybe it feels like at times you are stuck in the past, that things are just not moving forward, there's no progression. It feels like sometimes at work, and that can prove to be a little challenging for you at times. But let's look at these final 2 cards here. These have to do with whether or not there's anything left for you, or what the final outcome would be if you decided to leave in the very near future. And this is talking about after quarantine. So if you decided to say, I'm done with this job and move on after quarantine is over, this could be the outcome. So let's have a look here. We have the Five of Cups. And we also have the Ten of Cups. So if you decided to leave this job in the very near future, I think that it would not bode well for you. You might find that there's some disappointment and it could affect your family. Ten of Cups usually has to do with family and emotional fulfillment. And the Five of Cups has to do with disappointments. So it could, I feel like your family would support you no matter whether or not you decided to leave or stay, but there would be some disappointments as well. You might find that they prefer it if you stuck with your job. And I feel like with this group, you're more likely to enjoy your job. I don't feel like you are in the position where you are not happy at your job. I feel like maybe you have your bad days, but most of the time it's good days. And you have no intention right now of leaving this particular job. So let's circle back around to this discovery card again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this reading. I would like to read you the card at a glance meditation at the start of the particular section for these cards from the book. And we have here the discovery card, and it reads, "In the past, you may not have been fully prepared to face facts. Being willing to take the journey, regardless of the outcome, will prove rewarding. Get ready to carry a commitment through to completion." So like I said, I don't really feel like this group is ready to move on. Maybe you are still starting to work out what it is that you truly want from this particular job, or this could be helping you work out what you want in life. I also want to read you some of the personal inquiry questions that this book holds. And for this particular card, there are a couple here. Am I happy in this situation? How is it benefiting me? The healing of predetermined agreements must be addressed, and awareness is healing. So this is all that I am seeing for you, pile number 2, on what you can expect if you decided to leave this job in the near future. If you enjoyed this reading, please leave it a like. It would really help this little channel out. And let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I will see you for the next reading. So, bye group number 2. Alright, so if you chose group number 3 with the key, then this reading on what you can expect if you decided to leave this job is for you. So let's get started. So let's start with this Chakra Wisdom Oracle card here. This will represent the overall energy of your job, just like last week. And we have the Soulmate card. This is very interesting. All 3 groups have had red root chakra cards here. So that tells me a lot that everybody needs to be working on their foundation chakras. So the Soulmate card. We are going to start with this, and we will also end with this card. I will give my first impressions, and then at the end, after we go through all of these other cards, I will read you the little meditation and some of the personal inquiry questions to think about. Alright, so let's start with soulmate. Soulmate, I mean, when we talk about soulmates, usually that has something to do with, people usually think of romance and the like. But it can also just mean somebody who's very important in your life who helps you grow, and that could be a friend, or it could be an enemy, or it could be, I think in this case, you could say that this is a soulmate job, I suppose. We could argue maybe this is a job that is going to help you really grow as a person. If you've come straight from college and this is one of your first jobs, you're going to learn a lot in this particular position that you are in right now. And I'm also looking here at this third eye is open here. So I feel like maybe this job is going to help you become a little bit more intuitive. You're going to start realizing more about what it is that you want in your life and what it is you don't want in life. Or even as a part of your life, just the job, what kind of jobs you do and do not want, what does and does not work for you. So let's move on to these three cards, and we'll circle back around, like I said, we'll circle back around to that soulmate card at the end. But these three cards are, like last week, different aspects of this job, and they are in the more negative position. So this one is about the social aspects, and we have the Seven of Pentacles. This has to do with how it affects your personal life. We have the Two of Cups, and this third card here is representative of the most challenging part of the job, and we have the Nine of Pentacles. So let's start with the social aspects of this job. The Seven of Pentacles is supposed to represent the different people that you are dealing with on a daily basis, and the Seven of Pentacles has to do with long-term goals. So maybe you are working with people who deal with long-term views a lot, or they have been in this position at this job for a long time. That sort of feeling. They have long-term committed relationship with their particular job, and they might move fairly slowly because it's such a long-term view, and that might frustrate you a little bit. And I'm actually going to look now, I will come back to this card because I think this card has something to do with this. The Nine of Pentacles has to do with abundance and financial stability, and also financial independence as well. So maybe the most difficult part of the job is trying to become that. Maybe if you are just coming straight out of college, you are finding it difficult to get on your own 2 feet at the moment. You have student debt to pay, you have bills to pay, that sort of thing. There's lots to pay back, and you want to get to this point. This is a very positive card in a difficult position, so I feel like this is a lacking. This is what you want, and this is what you don't have at the moment. I feel like you are hoping to reach that Nine of Pentacles a lot faster than you are currently, and I'm looking at the bottle of wine that she has, and she's really relaxing, and I feel like maybe this is the total opposite of what you are currently feeling at this job. This will especially resonate with you if you have come out of university or are moving from a technical school into your first steps into the technical world. So like if you were working with a plumbing company or something like that, it'll take some time to get there, and this is another long-term view thing, so it's going to take some time, but it will get there. It's just very challenging to reach that point, and because of this, I feel like possibly this lacking kind of reflects and comes out when dealing with your relationships. I feel like maybe this lack, it makes the relationships aspect a little bit challenging. So maybe you have some squabbles with your siblings, or you argue with your parents a little bit, or your spouse or your partner. Whoever it might be, there's some form of relationship aspect that is proving difficult for you in your personal life outside of work, and work is possibly affecting these relationships. The other thing about the Nine of Pentacles with this abundance aspect, there's also the flip side of maybe you do have this abundance, but it also comes with a price, and that's usually if you have a lot of money, there's the price tag of paying with your time, and maybe that has to do with this relationships. Maybe you are spending a lot of time away from family, And that starts to cause problems for you in your personal life. So maybe you have long hours to finish projects at the office if you're working in an office setting, or you have business travel and that takes you out of the country or at least out of the state for long periods of time, for like a couple weeks at most maybe, or maybe even longer. But this time away from your family, due to the amount of abundance that you have in life, is starting to affect your relationships in your personal life. That could even, it might not even be romantic or family related. It could be your friends. It could even be your coworkers. Maybe you get a little short with your coworkers, or if you're a manager of a few people, maybe during times of stress you get a little short-tempered. It's possible. It happens. This is a card of relationships, so no relationship really is off the table. It also represents harmony, so there might be a little bit of a lacking of harmony in your personal life due to this particular job. And when I say that these are the negative things, this is just for some of you on a bad day. So not every day is going to be challenging, but this is reflecting the challenges of the job, which is hopefully not every day for you. So let's finish with these two cards and then we'll circle back around to this oracle card again. So these cards here represent the outcome if you left. We have the Ace of Swords, and we also have the Lover's card. That's interesting because the Lover's card is also present with the Two of Cups. But we're not looking so much at these two tying together, not as much, though there is that possibility. But we're looking at these two in relation to one another. And I feel like if you decided to leave after this quarantine was over, which is when I asked, the time frame that I asked for the cards, I feel like there could be some self-made success. The Ace of Swords is about like being struck by lightning, like inspiration, sudden idea, and there could be a initial spark of inspiration, but it usually has to do with self-made success, self-made victory. And it could be that it's in some field that you really enjoy. So maybe it's a hobby. Maybe it's a hobby that you currently have that you love doing. Maybe you've discovered it in this quarantine. Maybe you've picked up something like baking and you find that you really enjoy it and you're kind of thinking about maybe making cupcakes for a side job, as a side hustle, that sort of thing. And maybe it just takes off. You might find that these pentacles, this long-term success, this could turn around. This could become, these challenges could become big positives in your life. That's kind of what I'm getting from this, is that even though these are the challenging cards from this particular job that you're in right now, if you decided to leave at the end of the day, that these could become positives. And again, all of this is up to you. These decisions are yours to make. You may find that you don't want to leave, and that's perfectly all right. Maybe you are still discovering yourself here. Maybe you're still working on your intuition and what works for you and what doesn't. And maybe in the future you decide to leave, and that's fine. But let me circle back around to this Soulmate Oracle card. I'd like to read the little Cards at a Glance memo at the very beginning of this section for the root chakra cards. Sometimes the book holds completely different messages to what I can see. So let's see. Soulmate. This card indicates changing old communication patterns and being open to a new way of interacting. You may no longer be able to have conversations that don't sustain your authenticity. Freedom lies ahead, better than you can imagine. So that's really interesting. I was kind of just saying that, how if you decided to leave, something that you really enjoy doing could become your next job. The side hustle could explode. and you could find your true authentic self this way. And freedom lies ahead. Self-made. Self-made victories and success. I'd like to read you the little personal inquiry questions that come in this book as well. And again, this is, please refer to my disclaimer, as good as this reading sounds, I do want to make sure that you are aware that this deciding to leave a job is up to you. This is just what the cards are suggesting. So let's see what the personal inquiry questions are. And you need to think about what truth am I embracing? This card indicates no longer living a lie. And the key ideas around this have to do with speaking your truth, choosing love, freedom through transformations, resistance to commitments, an unexpected outcome, and new truths. So with that resistance to commitments, with this Two of Cups and the Lover's card both being here, I feel like maybe you really want to stand on your own 2 feet. And there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe you are in a relationship with someone, but you're not sure you're ready to commit to them just yet. You want to make sure that you stand on your own 2 feet before you commit to anyone. And that's perfectly all right, but I feel like I just wanted to bring that up. It's something that popped into my head as I was reading those little key ideas that are part of the soulmate card. So this is all that I am seeing for you, group number 3, on what you can expect if you decided to leave this job. If you enjoyed this reading, please leave it a like. It would really help out this little channel. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I will see you for the next reading. All right? Take care, group number 3. Bye!